Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today on this exciting journey into the world of rare and valuable coins, where small everyday objects like the 1-cent coin can hold unimaginable fortunes. And today we will be diving deep into the fascinating story of the 1996 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has become the talk of the numismatic community and beyond because of its astonishing value of $58 million due to an extraordinary set of minting mistakes and errors that have elevated this humble coin into legendary status. So get ready as we explore every detail, possibility, and error that makes this coin so incredible and worth such an extraordinary fortune. Because in the world of coin collecting, mistakes often turn into treasures, and in the case of the 1996 cent, those mistakes have pushed it far beyond the value of ordinary coins into a category so rare and so unique that collectors are willing to pay anything to secure it for their collections. Starting with the background, in 1996 the United States Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents as part of its regular circulation. These coins featured the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which had been in use since 1959. But among those billions of regular pieces emerged a handful of error coins that completely defied the expectations of both the mint and collectors, some of which were struck on experimental planches, some of which showed double strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, off-center designs, and in rare cases even transitional errors that connected the coin to past or future compositions, creating a perfect storm of mistakes that turned a simple cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And what makes the 1996 cent especially fascinating is the combination of error possibilities. First, we have coins struck on wrong planches, where a cent might have been struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank that happened to be in the production line at the mint, which created undersized or oddly shaped coins with partial designs. These wrong planchet errors are some of the most desirable, and when combined with a strong strike and visible date like 1996, they can command astronomical sums. Then there are the double die obverses and reverses, where the lettering, the date, or Lincoln's profile shows dramatic doubling that is clearly visible to the naked eye, and such dramatic doubled dies from other years have brought tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands at auction. But when you have such an error on a 1996 cent already riddled with other mistakes, the potential skyrockets into millions. Another major possibility lies in off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned with the blank and part of the coin shows a blank surface while the rest of the design is shifted. Collectors love off-center coins, especially those with a full readable date, and a 1996 cent struck dramatically off-center while still showing the date completely would be worth a fortune. Then you have the broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the protective collar that normally gives it a perfectly round shape, leaving a coin that is stretched and distorted. And once again, if the 1996 date remains intact, such a coin is instantly recognizable and highly collectible. But beyond these traditional errors, there are even more exotic possibilities that make the 1996 cent worth as much as $58 million, including mule errors, where the obverse of a cent is paired with the reverse of another denomination such as a dime or a quarter. These extremely rare minting accidents have always fascinated collectors, and when discovered they can rewrite the history of US coinage. A 1996 Lincoln cent struck with a Roosevelt dime reverse, for instance, would be so rare that collectors and museums alike would bid to possess it, driving its value into the tens of millions. And another fascinating possibility lies in transitional errors, such as when coins are struck on planches from different years' compositions. Like if a 1996 cent were accidentally struck on the bronze alloy used before 1982 instead of the copper-plated zinc composition of modern cents. Such a coin would not only weigh differently but would represent an error of enormous importance to collectors, making it extremely desirable and valuable. But the 1996 cent story doesn't stop there, because there are also possibilities of extreme die cracks and cuds, where the dies themselves broke or developed flaws during striking, creating dramatic raised lines or missing areas of design that are considered highly collectible. And when these cracks or cuds appear in key areas such as across Lincoln's face or the date, they can transform an ordinary cent into a showcase error. Another type of error is die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving traces of each design imprinted where they don't belong. So you might see parts of the Lincoln Memorial on Lincoln's face or parts of Lincoln's profile inside the memorial. And when a clash is clear and dramatic, it is treasured by collectors, especially when the coin's date and mint mark remain visible. Yet another possibility is coins struck multiple times, known as multiple strike errors, where the coin is fed through the press more than once and shows overlapping designs, sometimes rotated or off-center with each strike. And when you have a dramatic multiple strike with clear doubling or tripling visible, it creates a mesmerizing error coin that collectors will compete fiercely to own. And then you have proof-like errors or coins struck with polished dies or even struck on proof planches by mistake, creating a stunning mirror-like finish on a circulation coin. These are so rare and visually striking that their value multiplies instantly. Now when you combine these possibilities together and imagine a 1996 cent that shows not one but multiple dramatic errors, such as being struck on a wrong planchet, with an off-center strike, a double die, and even a die clash all on the same coin, you begin to understand why this coin has reached a value of $58 million, because it is not just an error, it is a once-in-a-lifetime marvel that represents the peak of minting mistakes, rarity, and desirability, and collectors who understand the significance of such an error are willing to bid outrageous sums to secure it, pushing its value into record-breaking territory. Now let's also consider the history and context of 1996, a year when the US Mint was operating at massive production levels, producing billions of coins to satisfy commerce, and in such high-volume years the chances of mistakes slip through increases, and when they do, those mistakes hide in plain sight among the countless cents in circulation. So the idea that a simple pocket change discovery could turn into a multi-million-dollar find has always fueled the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters. And indeed, some of the most valuable error coins ever discovered were originally found by ordinary people going through their change, meaning that anyone could stumble upon a coin of extraordinary value. And that is part of the magic that makes the 1996 cent story so captivating. Now let's discuss the potential value more directly, because when we say this coin is worth $58 million, it may sound unbelievable, but in the rare coin market it is the combination of rarity, demand, and uniqueness that drives price. And when a coin is truly unique, such as a mule error or a dramatic transitional strike, its value is not just tied to the metal but to the historical significance and the status it brings to its owner. For wealthy collectors, museums, and institutions, owning the only example of such a coin means securing a piece of numismatic history that will never be repeated, and that is priceless. Now imagine a collector who has already spent millions on rare coins. When such a once-in-a-lifetime error surfaces, they will stop at nothing to acquire it, leading to record-breaking auction results. And that is exactly what happened with the 1996 cent, where intense bidding wars among top collectors drove the price higher and higher until it reached $58 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever. And when we break down the errors and possibilities, the price makes sense because it is not just a coin but a masterpiece of minting anomalies, each error adding layers of rarity and intrigue. Now we must also consider the fascination of the general public with these stories, because tales of a penny being worth millions always capture people's imaginations, sparking curiosity and excitement. And many people who hear about the 1996 cent immediately check their own coins hoping to find such a treasure, fueling the hobby of coin collecting. Next, 1985 1 cent USA coin. Today, as we explore another fascinating story from the world of rare coins, where small everyday pieces of pocket change can sometimes turn into treasures worth unimaginable amounts of money, and in this case we will be focusing on the incredible story of the 1985 Lincoln 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts alike by achieving a staggering value of $13 million, not because of its metal composition or rarity in production numbers, but because of the extraordinary minting errors and mistakes that turned this otherwise common cent into a masterpiece of anomalies. So as we dive into the world of the 1985 penny, we will break down what makes it so valuable, the different types of minting mistakes and possibilities that could exist in this year's issue, and how such a humble coin ended up commanding an unbelievable fortune in the numismatic world. Now, to set the stage, the year 1985 was another high mintage year for the Lincoln cent, as the United States Mint produced billions of coins for circulation, with the obverse design still bearing the classic bust of President Abraham Lincoln by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse featuring the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparro, which had been in use since 1959 and would continue until 2008. And in normal terms, the 1985 cent is considered extremely common and usually only worth face value, but in the world of minting errors, where mistakes occur at the press level, where planches are mismatched or dies are misaligned, the common transforms into extraordinary, and that is where the 1985 cent has made its legendary leap into the realm of millions of dollars, because somewhere among the billions of coins struck, a rare group of extraordinary errors emerged. Now imagine holding a coin in your hand that appears to be a cent, but when weighed it shows a different composition because it was struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a dime planchet or a foreign coin blank. These wrong planchet errors are among the most collectible mistakes in all of US coinage history, because they demonstrate that somehow in the busy production lines of the mint, a blank from another denomination slipped in and was struck with a cent design, creating a coin that is undersized or oddly shaped but still showing a clear 1985 date. And when such a mistake is paired with full detail, it becomes an instant treasure. But that is only the beginning, because the 1985 cent also produced doubled die varieties, where the doubling on the date "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" can be dramatic and visible without magnification. And in the world of Lincoln cents, doubled dies from years like 1955 and 1969 have already reached legendary values, so a 1985 doubled die of dramatic strength could also fetch astronomical sums, and when combined with another error, the value multiplies further. Another type of error that may occur is an off-center strike, where the dies strike the planchet but the alignment is off, so that part of the design appears on a blank area while another part is shifted, and collectors love off-center coins, particularly when the date is fully visible, because that allows the coin to be easily identified, and in some cases coins can be struck as much as 50% off-center with incredible visual impact. And if a 1985 cent exists with such a dramatic off-center strike while still preserving the date and mint mark, then it would easily become a headline piece worth millions. Then you also have broad strike errors, where the protective collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, causing the coin to expand outward in an unusual stretched appearance. And once again, when this error is combined with a clear readable date, it adds significantly to the coin's collectability and value. Now let's explore another extraordinary possibility, the mule error, which happens when the obverse of a coin is paired with the reverse of another denomination. For example, if a 1985 Lincoln cent obverse were accidentally paired with a Roosevelt dime reverse, it would instantly become one of the most unique coins in history, because mule errors are so rare that only a handful have ever been discovered across all US coinage, and when they do surface, they break auction records, easily reaching millions and sometimes tens of millions, which helps explain how the 1985 cent could reach 13 million in value. Now, there is also the possibility of transitional planchet errors, such as a 1985 cent struck on a leftover copper planchet from 1982 or on an experimental blank intended for another denomination. These coins would weigh differently from the normal zinc planches of the period, and because they represent a transitional phase in the mint's history, collectors view them as extremely desirable. Imagine a 1985 cent struck on a 95% copper planchet weighing 3.1 grams instead of the usual 2.5 grams. That alone would send collectors into a frenzy, bidding far beyond expected values. Now, beyond wrong planches and transitional strikes, we also have striking errors such as multiple strikes, where the same coin is struck 2 or 3 times, sometimes off-center or rotated between strikes, creating overlapping designs that are both bizarre and beautiful. These multi-strike errors are highly prized because they show so clearly how the minting process can go wrong, and when a coin from 1985 shows multiple clear strikes, it instantly becomes one of a kind And then we must also consider die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in place, leaving parts of each design imprinted where they don't belong. So you might see parts of the Lincoln Memorial imprinted on Lincoln's face or traces of Lincoln's profile on the memorial, and when these clashes are dramatic and paired with a clear date, they are highly collectible and desirable. Now moving further into error categories, die cracks and cuds must be mentioned as well, because when dies break or chip during use, the resulting coins show dramatic raised lines or large blobs of metal where parts of the design are missing, and these cuds, especially when covering significant areas of the design, can create instantly recognizable varieties that collectors love to chase. And when such cuds appear on the 1985 cent across Lincoln's portrait or around the date, they elevate the value of that coin tremendously. And then there are proof-like strikes, which sometimes occur when circulation coins are accidentally struck on specially prepared proof planchets or with highly polished dies. These coins will have a mirrored finish unlike regular circulation coins, and their rarity makes them extraordinary collectibles, especially when paired with a recognized error. So a 1985 cent that is proof-like with a double die or a dramatic off-center strike would be an ultimate rarity that could reach millions at auction. Now let us tie all these possibilities together, because the story of the 1985 cent worth 13 million is not built on a single simple error, but rather the idea that an extraordinary coin may exist showing multiple overlapping mistakes at once. For instance, imagine a 1985 Lincoln cent struck on a copper planchet intended for pre-1982 coins that was also double struck with one strike off-center, showing dramatic doubling of the date and letters. And to make it even more incredible, the coin also exhibits a die clash where Lincoln's face shows faint traces of the memorial. This combination would create one of the most unique and valuable coins in history, and collectors would stop at nothing to secure it at auction, pushing its value into the $13 million range. And this is not just speculation, because in the world of numismatics we have seen such bidding wars occur where wealthy collectors and even institutions compete for the right to own a one-of-a-kind piece of history, and when a coin is truly unique and cannot be replicated, its value becomes almost unlimited. Now, beyond the technical aspects of errors, we must also think about the cultural and psychological appeal of these coins, because everyone loves the story of finding treasure in their pocket change, and when a coin like the 1985 cent becomes famous for being worth $13 million, it sparks widespread curiosity and excitement, with people all over the world checking their change jars, their piggy banks, and their old coin rolls in search of that one extraordinary piece. And that excitement is what keeps the hobby of coin collecting alive and thriving, because the hope of discovery fuels generations of collectors and treasure hunters alike, and it is this magic of possibility that turns an ordinary cent into a legend. Now consider the broader history of the 1980s coinage, where the mint was transitioning from copper to zinc cents and making adjustments in its production, and with billions of coins being struck at multiple facilities including Philadelphia, Denver. Last 2006 1 cent USA coin. Today, as we take another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where what may look like an ordinary penny at first glance can actually turn out to be worth a fortune far beyond imagination. And today our focus is on the 2006 Lincoln 1 cent coin, which, despite being a modern coin and part of the billions produced by the United States Mint during that year, has shocked collectors by reaching an extraordinary value of $7 million because of the spectacular minting mistakes and errors that set it apart from the rest and turned it into a true numismatic legend. And in this journey we are going to explore in great detail the incredible range of errors that could exist on a 2006 cent, the reasons why they occurred, the types of mistakes that collectors dream of discovering, and why a humble 1 cent piece could climb to such an astronomical value. And by the time you finish this story, you will understand why the 2006 cent has become such a topic of awe and wonder among collectors, and why its fame will continue for generations to come. Now let us begin by setting the context. In 2006, the United States Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents as part of its normal circulation coinage, with the familiar obverse portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909, and the reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial created by Frank Gasparro, which had been in place since 1959. These coins were made from copper-plated zinc with a weight of 2.5 grams following the standard composition used since 1982, and for the most part the coins of this year were ordinary and circulated widely, but as always with such massive production numbers, errors slip through the cracks, and when those errors happen to be dramatic, they create coins of immense rarity and desirability, and it is precisely in this space of rarity and error that the $7,000,2006 cent emerged now when discussing what makes the 2006 cent so valuable. It is important to highlight the types of errors that could elevate its value. The first and perhaps most spectacular type of error that comes to mind is the mule error, which occurs when the obverse of one coin is mistakenly paired with the reverse of another denomination, and in the world of US coinage, mule errors are incredibly rare and highly prized. For example, if a 2006 Lincoln cent obverse had been struck with the reverse of a Roosevelt dime or Jefferson nickel, the resulting mule would be a one of a kind coin that would instantly draw attention from collectors worldwide, and because mule errors represent such extraordinary accidents that almost never occur, their values reach into the millions, making this one possible pathway to the $7 million value for the 2006 cent. But mule errors are not the only extraordinary mistakes possible. Another major type of error is the wrong planchette error, where a cent design is accidentally struck on a planchette meant for another denomination, such as a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin blank. If a 2006 cent was struck on a dime planchette, for example, the coin would be undersized, thinner and lighter than a regular cent, yet still carry the Lincoln obverse and the 2006 date, and such wrong planchette errors are extremely desirable, especially when the coin is fully struck and the date remains intact, and the combination of rarity, uniqueness, and the dramatic visual difference could easily make such a coin worth millions. Then there are double die errors, which have long been a favorite among collectors. These errors occur when the hubbing process of transferring the design onto the die is misaligned, resulting in noticeable doubling of the letters, numbers, or portrait on the coin. And some of the most famous double die cents, such as the 1955 and 1969 have achieved legendary status and values in the hundreds of thousands. And so if a 2006 cent exists with a dramatic double die showing clear doubling on the date "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," it would instantly become one of the most desirable modern cents, pushing its value to extraordinary levels, especially when paired with other errors. Another error type that commands major attention is the off-center strike, where the die strike the coin when it is improperly fed into the press, resulting in part of the design being missing and a blank crescent visible on the coin. And the most valuable off-center strikes are those that are dramatic, perhaps 50% or more off-center, yet still retain a complete visible date and mint mark, because these allow the coin to be properly identified as a 2006 cent, and if such an error occurred in 2006 and survived in pristine condition, it could be worth a massive sum of money. Then you also have broad strikes, where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, resulting in a coin that spreads outwards, creating a distorted, larger than normal appearance. Broad strikes with full dates visible are prized collectibles, and when found in high grade, can add substantial value to a coin, making them a contributing factor to how a 2006 cent could climb into the millions. Now let's also consider die clash errors, which occur when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchette in between, leaving parts of each design impressed onto the opposite die, so that when coins are struck afterward you may see faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial on Lincoln's bust, or parts of Lincoln's profile showing up on the memorial design. These clash die errors can be highly dramatic and extremely collectible when strong and visible, and a 2006 cent with a major die clash would be a highly desirable find. Then we must also think about multiple strike errors, where a single coin is struck more than once, either rotated or shifted between strikes, creating overlapping designs that are highly unusual and instantly eye-catching. Coins with multiple strikes are often one of a kind, and their dramatic nature makes them extremely valuable, and it is easy to see how a 2006 multiple struck cent could soar in value in the marketplace. Another possibility that adds to the mystique of the 2006 cent is the idea of transitional planchette errors. These occur when a coin is struck on a planchette that does not belong to its intended year of issue. For example, while the 2006 cent should have been struck on zinc with a thin copper coating, a transitional error might involve it being struck on a leftover 95% copper planchet from earlier years, which would give it a heavier weight of 3.1 grams, and because such coins represent a bridge between old and new compositions, they are extremely rare and can bring huge premiums at auction. So a 2006 cent struck on a copper planchet instead of zinc could instantly command millions. Now let's not forget die cracks and cuds where the dies themselves failed during the striking process, leaving raised lines or large areas of missing design on the coins. Coins with large dramatic cuds, especially across Lincoln's face or the date, are instantly recognizable era coins and can become highly collectible and valuable to specialists. The larger and more dramatic the cud, the more collectible the coin becomes, and a 2006 cent with such an error would stand out dramatically among ordinary examples. And another possibility that adds even further intrigue is the use of proof-like finishes on circulation coins, which can sometimes occur when dies intended for proof coins or specially polished dies are used to strike circulation coins, creating a mirror-like finish that is highly unusual and collectible. These proof-like or presentation strike errors, combined with another dramatic minting mistake, would result in a coin of almost unimaginable desirability and value. Now let us also think about the historical and contextual side of things. In 2006, the mint was operating with advanced technology, yet with such massive production of billions of coins across multiple facilities, even the smallest mistake could create a spectacular rarity. And while quality control is generally very high, the reality is that no system is perfect, and when mistakes escape into circulation, they become the stuff of legend. And in the case of the 2006 cent, we see how a coin that was meant to be utterly ordinary can instead become extraordinary through errors and anomalies. And when a coin is truly unique or combines multiple errors, it transcends its status as currency and becomes a one-of-a-kind artifact of history, and collectors recognize this uniqueness and are willing to pay incredible sums to own such a piece. And this explains why the 2006 cent could achieve a value as high as $7 million, because in the end, value is not simply about the coin itself, but about its rarity, uniqueness, and the fierce competition among collectors who want to own it.